Number one, I don't think it's jealousy. Oh my God, she's getting all the endorsements. We're going to go after her. You're playing at the highest level. You're playing in the WNBA. You're coming from college and you're going to the pro ranks, right? What did she expect was going to happen?
Don't say, oh, we're getting new sponsorship because of Caitlyn. No, what about Angel? What about Cardoza? What about my favorite, Kelsey Plum?
These ladies, and I'm a WNBA fan, they cannot have this Caitlyn Clark thing up any worse if they try. People believe what we say on television. Just because people don't like you or your personality, they can't get on TV and slander you. It's just total bullshit. This girl is incredible.
Hey, LeBron, you're 100% right on these girls hating on Caitlyn Clark. Y'all petty girls.
Anyone who's been following basketball lately is aware of the Caitlyn Clark supernova that is changing our collective opinion of the women's game. Few people know more about the sport than retired NBA stars, who often maintain a lasting interest in the evolution of their league and basketball in general. Many of them are very excited about the current prospects of the WNBA as a result of Caitlyn Clark's brilliant play and unprecedented popularity. While in the past it was rare for male players to comment on women's basketball too much, today we have some of the biggest NBA legends discussing Caitlyn Clark and various viewpoints of her journey as a highly touted rookie. Of course, we haven't seen a media phenomenon comparable to Caitlyn Clark in quite some time, especially for a US-born player. Some of the most hyped prospects that entered the NBA in recent years were born in Europe, like Luka Doncic or Victor Wembanyama, so the emergence of Caitlyn Clark provides a topic that strikes much closer to home. Another factor to consider is that many retired NBA players enjoy being in the news, and some of them even work for the top broadcasting networks. To some of them, talking about Caitlyn Clark is just something that can pop up during an interview or live media session or a podcast. Since they are not bound by PR policies of NBA teams any longer, former stars can speak more freely and offer opinions that are not necessarily curated for business purposes. As you might expect from such a diverse group of individuals spanning several generations, NBA legends had all kinds of stuff to say about Caitlyn Clark. Some loved her from the start, some rooted for her rivals, only to come around once Caitlyn started balling for good, and a few tried to impart words of advice to the prized rookie. Overall, we could say that former NBA players were more inclined to accept that Caitlyn Clark is unique and less judgmental towards her fame. That means we can hear some bits of insider wisdom that current players and coaches would think twice before sharing. Guys who don't have a huge media exposure are the most likely to give us their uncensored opinions, which is why we will start with a former player who isn't all over the airwaves in retirement. Jeff Teague was a quality starter for most of his 12 seasons in the league, and he was a one-time All-Star and won one NBA championship ring, but he never was a media darling or a highly marketable figure. Now retired, Teague felt free to criticize the WNBA for its treatment of Caitlyn Clark as she entered the league with a huge fan base.
Like, they played this all wrong, bro.
Terribly, bro.
They was supposed to gas this shit. This is why people don't watch this shit when y'all leave college. Women's sports, because y'all hating on the best thing that's gonna happen to the W.
While you can argue that his delivery is raw, the main idea he is conveying is very reasonable. After years of furious debate about the gender pay gap in sports and repeated unsuccessful attempts to raise the visibility of WNBA, Caitlyn's arrival has finally got things moving on those fronts, but she still endured a rough welcome. Teague just points out that such an attitude is damaging the league financially, while making it clear that he considers Caitlyn to be worthy of better treatment by her peers and managers. Speaking of ill treatment, Celtics legend Paul Pierce deserves some blame for the animosity in the media towards Clark early in the season. The 10th time All-Star has publicly doubted Caitlyn Clark early, and even caused a racial controversy with his comments about the Fever's fabulous rookie. He has since tried to distance himself from some of that noise, and started reluctantly showing some respect towards the Indiana Fever guard. Here is what Pierce had to say after Clark was left off the U.S. Olympic team.
You claim you want the women's game to grow, and then you keep the most popular girl in women's basketball off the team. How do you grow internationally and domestically if you don't put her on the U.S. team? It just makes the most sense. Sometimes you have to say, hey, guys, this is bigger than the game, which it is. I mean, women's basketball is at an all-time high because of Caitlyn Clark.
On the surface, his take sounds respectful, but if you dissect the logic behind it, you will see that Pierce is still not totally sold on Caitlyn Clark's basketball ability. He believes that Clark should have been a part of the U.S. roster in order to grow the popularity of the sport, but implies that Caitlyn didn't earn an invitation on merit alone. Then again, Paul Pierce is one of the most provocative NBA players turned sports commentators, so all of his takes must be taken with some reservation, as he might simply be trying to stay relevant in the media space. Another great NBA forward shared his views about Caitlyn's absence from the national team. Carmelo Anthony has never been an instigator of debate and tends to have a mild personality when in front of a camera. He was, however, a huge college star for Syracuse University, and he won an NCAA title his only year at the school. Melo offered a better explanation why Caitlyn Clark didn't travel to Paris with the rest of WNBA's elite, one that was rooted in understanding of the process behind the selection.
She haven't practiced. She haven't been at camp. She haven't been at practice. So it's no disrespect to her of not making the team. It's the timing of the season, right? It's the timing of the sport. It's a lot of things that have to start working together in order for everybody to be happy.
As a legendary scorer who had lots of memorable performances on the international stage and appeared in 4 different Olympic tournaments, Carmelo Anthony knows that continuity is key to success. After going deep in the NCAA playoffs and immediately joining WNBA, Caitlyn Clark wasn't able to participate in Team USA activities sufficiently to develop a chemistry with the rest of the girls. In Melo's opinion, the coaches simply went with a team that showed the most in practices, and judging by the results, they weren't wrong. Absence from the biggest sports event of the year may have hurt Caitlyn on a personal level, but it could have been a blessing in disguise. That's at least what legendary NBA center and 3-time Defensive Player of the Year Dwight Howard thinks. He deliberated back at the time that Caitlyn could use the time off to work on her skills and dominate in the second half of the season, which is exactly what happened. The quote from Howard sounds almost prescient when we look back at it.
She is a great player, but it's a lot of players that, no lie, who, as far as basketball-wise, they have the edge over her of why they should be playing in the Olympics right now. Mind you, this should motivate her. This should make her go harder in the gym. The 3 weeks that they off, she should get in better shape.
Caitlyn Clark has looked much different since the Olympic break, and while we don't know how much the omission from the team sparked her fury and motivated her, she definitely found her groove. Traveling to Paris and potentially sitting on the bench for a stacked team could have thrown Clark off her rhythm, not to mention the possibility of a random injury that could linger upon her return. Dwight saw an opportunity for Caitlyn where everyone else saw only failure and lack of respect, and he was smart enough to realize that a player of Clark's caliber is perfectly positioned to capitalize on that opportunity and prove she is better than most of the players selected ahead of her. Still, with Caitlyn Clark, you always have to take the big picture into account. Hall of Fame point guard Isaiah Thomas was always able to see all the angles, on and off the court. After his stellar playing career that culminated in back-to-back NBA championships for the Detroit Pistons, Thomas went on to work as head coach and executive in the NBA for many years. When asked about Clark, Thomas had a predominantly positive view, with one little twist in the end.
I think it's great what she's done, and I think it's great what the media and the WNBA and marketing and the players are doing, because, controversy is not good, but, controversy sells.
That's a very smooth job from Thomas, who managed to compliment everyone and still point out the dirty business behind all the Caitlyn hate, all in one sentence. It's no secret that people tune in to follow drama, and by attacking Caitlyn Clark from all directions when she first arrived to the league, the media had a lot to gain. Let's just say that Isaiah is onto something here, but he doesn't want to feed into the very controversy he is describing. Caitlyn Clark has quickly gained grassroots support from Indianapolis fans, but she still can't compare with some of the basketball heroes from the past when it comes to local love. On the very top of the list of most beloved Indiana ballers of all time is the elite three-point marksman and cutthroat competitor Reggie Miller, who spent all of his 18 seasons wearing a number 31 Pacers jersey. While you might expect Miller to show some mercy to Clark as the new savior of his town, he went the opposite way and basically said that every rookie must learn how to deal with adversity and competition.
First of all, what did you expect was going to happen to her? Number one, I don't think it's jealousy. Oh my God, she's getting all the endorsements. We're going to go after her. You're playing at the highest level. You're playing in the WNBA. You're coming from college and you're going to the pro ranks, right? What did she expect was going to happen? Why are people so shocked, right? You're playing against grown women. The same thing happened to us.
Reggie played in the old school NBA that was far more physical than the modern game, so his stance on hard fouls and physical defense may be a bit obsolete. However, The part about competitiveness of the pro game is completely valid, and perhaps it was naive to expect WNBA players to lay out a red carpet for Caitlyn Clark. While it may have been sensible from a business perspective, the players were never just going to let Clark get the crown without earning it with blood, sweat, and tears. As one of the most publicly visible NBA stars of his generation, Shaquille O'Neal has a lot of say regarding the reputations of current players. Shaq won 4 NBA rings and an MVP award, so when he speaks, everybody tends to listen. Shaq initially wasn't a Caitlyn Clark fan and instead supported his fellow LSU alumni Angel Reese, even signing her to a lucrative Reebok footwear deal. However, then he happened to watch a critical game between his protege and Caitlyn in person, and that's where he might have changed his mind. Let's follow his mood before and after the Sky and Fever matchup.
Very excited. It's my first time watching her play as a pro, and I get to see Caitlyn Clark up close and personal, so looking forward to the game.
Inevitably, Shaq's presence drew a lot of attention, especially as the game was dominated by Fever and wasn't too competitive in the second half. The retired NBA center was asked about the growth of the women's game, and he gave a very enthusiastic response.
Well, I love it, especially for women. Listen, they've always played great. They've always played hard. I'm glad they're getting the exposure they definitely deserve. Now we just got to get them similar contracts to what some of these NBA guys are making.
Caitlyn Clark killed it in this game versus Chicago, scoring 31 points to go with 12 assists, despite being brutally fouled several times. Seeing his favorite women's player thoroughly outplayed by Clark, Shaq changed his tune and started publicly backing Caitlyn's candidacy for Rookie of the Year. He also explained what is driving the animosity that some WNBA players display towards Clark in a way that pretty much anyone can understand. There is envious jealousy and there is professional jealousy. I'm sure there is a lot of people who are professionally jealous. I know I am. I am professional jealousy of a lot of people. I am professional jealousy of Steph making $60 million, but hey, that's life. It's not hard to see what Shaq is hinting at here, especially since he also recently compared Caitlyn to Steph in terms of shooting range and impact on the defenses. For all his quirks, Shaq has always been honest about what he sees on the court, and after the latest couple of games, Caitlyn is just playing too well to be ignored. That's why he felt obliged to give her a shout-out, without upending his existing relationship with Angel Reese or backtracking any of his earlier opinions. In terms of endorsements by NBA legends, it doesn't get any bigger than that. Much like Shaq, Magic Johnson is actively involved in women's basketball as a part owner of the Los Angeles Sparks. Because of that, we know that the superstar point guard and driver of 5 NBA championship teams is paying attention to what's going on in the WNBA. Johnson offered a very insightful analysis of Caitlyn's role in the league, while also mentioning other high-profile rookies.
Now, Caitlyn, her teammates got to come to her defense.
Sure.
You can't allow her to have to fight every battle, right? But we have to understand that both Caitlyn, Angel, and Brink, who plays for my Sparks, they made the WNBA better. And they're going to be tested by these incredible women who've been in the league for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Caitlyn is the most popular WNBA player, but she's not the best at this time. Just like Larry and I were not the best when we entered the league. We became the best later on.
Interestingly, Magic drew a parallel between the current crop of young WNBA talent and his own rivalry with Larry Bird that revitalized the NBA in the late 70s and early 80s. He is preaching patience and pointing out that the young stars will need support from their teammates in order to conquer all the challenges and earn top spots in their sport. In his typical style, Magic gave his praise to everyone without truly getting caught up in the ugly part of the debate. Still, his assessment of Clark is very high and can be taken as a sign that even old NBA players who have a vested interest in a competing team must respect her greatness. Anyone who remembers Magic from his playing days knows he was always classy and elegant in his public statements. That can't be said for one of his contemporaries. Charles Barkley was a physical player whose interactions with the media often sounded similar to his battles for position deep in the paint. Now working in the media and enjoying even greater popularity than as a player, the 11-time All-Star and 2-time Olympic gold medalist has commented on Caitlyn Clark and her WNBA experience several times. He has been mostly supportive, like in this clip where he discusses how her form changed during the season.
And the thing I love about her, she never says a word. And now, when I watch her, 2 things I like. She's playing much faster, much faster. She was playing too slow the first half of the season.
From the college season.
They didn't even give her the understanding, like, you girls been ready for the WNBA season. Y'all been working out. on the no straight. She came straight out of college.
Fatigue might have played as much of a role in slowing Caitlyn Clark early as anything that defenses did, and Chuck is correctly noticing that she had more pep in her step lately. That led to increased opportunities in transition and higher scoring output for both Clark and her teammates. However, Barkley also addressed how fellow WNBA players treat Clark, and he didn't spare his targets from pointed and biting criticism.
You women out there, y'all petty, man. Hey, LeBron, you're 100% right on these girls hating on Caitlyn Clark. Y'all petty, girls. I expect men to be petty because we're the most insecure group in the world. Y'all should be thanking that girl for getting y'all ass private charters, all the money and visibility she bringing to the WNBA. Don't be petty like dudes.
Humorous tone aside, Barkley has nailed the central issue in the Caitlyn Clark saga. Competition is one thing, but petty maliciousness is something else. And there have been instances where opponents sent Clark to the floor with no legitimate basketball reasons. The argument that other players should be appreciative of Clark rather than combative stands to reason. But Barkley has another group in mind as culprits for the whole situation: the opinion makers in the media.
They cannot have this Caitlyn Clark thing up any worse if they try. People believe what we say on television. Just because people don't like you or your personality, they can't get on TV and slander you. It's just total bullshit. This girl is incredible. The number of attention, eyeballs she's brought to college and the pros, and for these women to have this petty jealousness, you say to yourself, damn, what is going on here?
You can't blame Barkley for being irritated by what he sees as injustice. WNBA sees Caitlyn Clark as a cash cow, but it doesn't do enough to protect her on the floor and promote her as the future flag bearer of the league. Part of that comes from corporate caution, as the decision-makers prefer to let the season play out before they formulate a strategy around Caitlyn Clark's rapid ascent to superstardom. The other part may indeed be related to personal dislike of Clark among some key media members, and that's just not acceptable in a professional environment. If Caitlyn Clark wants to find some solace in the words of NBA legends, it's best to listen only to those who have the resumes to back their opinions. Former MVP and NBA champion Kevin Garnett has a reputation as one of the hardest workers in his sport, and his famous toughness and bravado helped him overcome countless challenges during a 21-year NBA career. Nicknamed the Big Ticket, Garnett joined the NBA straight out of high school and was soon feared on both ends of the court, so he has a unique perspective on how basketball stars are made.
Caitlyn Clark go through shit. I'm watching all, man, rookies, you're gonna go through some shit. And guess what? When you're it, when you got the bullseye on your back, when you it, it's gonna come with some shit. Ain't nobody's hitting y'all with the step back in the high. Yeah, it's a compliment. Yeah, you fear.
Not only does Garnett think it is normal for a rookie to deal with rough play and taunting, he believes it is a stepping stone toward greatness. The best ones have to prove their worth, and through that process, the special players build their winning mentality. According to him, Caitlyn should take the attention from defenses as a sign of respect and just go with the flow. It's an interesting point of view, even if it may not be shared by all retired NBA players. The legend of Caitlyn Clark continues to grow, and this is especially evident in the way the biggest names of the sport are talking about her. Since she started playing well and her team entered the playoff picture, she is increasingly recognized as the real deal, to borrow a phrase from Shaq. There is an old saying that game recognizes game, so the support of certified masters of the craft means much more than the opinions of journalists who never played basketball. All of the famous NBA stars were rookies once, so they understand how much Clark can develop from this point and how much it will mean for women's basketball for her to reach her full potential. You can be sure that some of the best players in NBA history are actively following Caitlyn Clark's road to success and rooting for her to rewrite the record books and revolutionize the business aspect of the sport.